And now we are entering the Dunder Mifflin warehouse.
Stop it.
I'm at Millcraft. Oh my God. How big is this place?
This particular warehouse is roughly around 70,000 square feet.
Oh my God, it's filled with paper.
Yeah, we got a lot of paper.
Well, that's good because you're a paper merchant.
We are. And basically, I don't know that people fully understand what a paper merchant does, but we purchase paper from the paper mills. So, like over here, we've got International Paper, some hammer mill. All right, we buy from IP, the hammer mill. We resell it to the printers or end users or whoever.
I use that in my machines, like my copy machine.
It's 99.99% jam free.
All right,
so it's a good thing.
No plugging.
I know,
my
but I'm
God!
just saying, there's a lot.
Look how far back that goes.
It does. It goes far back. We've got skids. We've got rolls. I think most people, when they think of paper, just think of those big web rolls. And you know, while that's important, the reality is most of that stuff ships direct from the mill.
What's that over there?
Those are all skids of coated paper.
Oh my God! I'm like,
so a lot
this
of
is
printers,
this is like Nirvana to me. I'm like, what's that? What's that?
It's pretty cool, I have to say. I like the warehouse a lot. You know, and there's a ton of stuff in here.
It's really neat and organized, I can tell you.
It is pretty
I wish my
organized.
closet looked like this.
I have to say it is pretty organized. But it has to be. I mean, these guys are filling orders all day long, and they have to know exactly where to go to pick it, and all that stuff, you know, is going to take time, and it definitely...
Look how far back that goes.
Yeah, we'll do a little lap for, you don't have to film the whole time if you don't want to, but... yeah, so basically the merchant buys the paper from the mill and then sells it to the printer. Not most of the customers that we transact with are printers, whether they're digital printers, commercial printers, or digital printers, commercial printers, in-house, you know, print shops, copy centers, some end users, some marketing departments. You know, it just depends on the needs. But basically, this is, we house it here, and you know, we're no different than any other paper merchant. We happen to be a regional merchant. There are some national merchants, but basically you've got warehouses and markets across the country, and in our case we pull from all of our warehouses nightly. So even if it's not on our floor here, and say maybe our location in Columbus has it, it's still next day to the Cleveland customer. And that's kind of the benefit when you work with a merchant. It's not just what's in that maybe one particular, people think of paper stores, but it's the collection. What do you have across all of your markets? So the warehouse basically is where we keep all the stuff, all the good stuff. The paper's here.
Now, what happens if you don't sell all your paper?
Well, we like to sell our paper, and you know, certainly our supply chain manager analyzes that and knows, you know, how many times a year we should turn it. And I think that we do a really good job of making sure we're buying what we're selling. But at the same time, that can also be when some designers or end users run into difficulty. Like, my printer tells me this paper is not available at all.
Right.
Well, it's available. It's not a stocked item, meaning it's not here on our floor.
Yeah, I've been told before I can get a few, but it's a mill item and it takes like 2 weeks and there's an extra delivery charge.
It should never take 2 weeks. I mean, no, I take that back. If it's an overseas mill, I mean, I tell you, you
no,
need to,
it wasn't
like,
an overseas mill. I can tell you that right
that,
now.
you know, that could definitely take longer. But there you can see some.
So wait, are you
rolls.
telling me I was lied to?
I'm not saying you were lied to, but you were perhaps misinformed.
So there's no such thing as a mill item taking 2 weeks and costing like an extra $600. Because there's also something about breaking the cartons.
Well, there's definitely broken carton fees. Okay, so as a merchant, the benefit of stocking it on our floor is that we can break the carton. So if you're working on a smaller run, and that only requires, say, like 100 sheets of paper, you can, if we stock it in cartons, we can break the cartons. The printer can take that small order. There are some merchants that won't break cartons, so they don't. And typically when we buy from the mill, we can't buy broken cartons, so we have to buy in full carton quantity. And if it's not something that we stock, meaning we know we're not going to sell that item, we aren't going to buy a carton and break it for a sold order unless it's a stock item for us. So that we would say, you know what, and I'd be upfront with you at the beginning, it's a mill item, so that means full carton quantities. It's, you know, whatever it is, 400 sheets to a carton, however that particular item's packed. So you're fully aware. In a lot of cases, you may be paying a lot more for some for extra paper you're never going to use.
Right.
But maybe in some cases, a full carton, sometimes they're packed 100 sheets of
Right.
carton. It might be fine.
Now, here's a weird question. If, let's just say it's happened to me before where I've had to buy cartons and then buy an additional carton because I only needed part of the quantity from that other carton. Now, is that extra paper held for me somewhere in case I ever want it, or
Well,
what?
that's a conversation you need to have with your printer.
Right.
Because you paid for the paper.
Right.
If you, if you wanted that paper, I would think if you bought it, you should be able to get it. I doubt that a printer would say, all right, I'm going to hold on to this indefinitely for you
Right.
until you want it. But it's definitely.
Does a merchant hold on to it?
There are some cases for customers that buy in, and I can't speak for every merchant, that buy a lot of an item where we do something called either bill and hold, where the customer pays for the paper all up front, but then we ship it to them on an as-needed basis. So, and there's a cost associated with that because you're actually taking up warehouse space, and there's some liability in those kinds of things. Every merchant is different, so I can't speak for everybody. But there are certainly ways, I think, with your printers as well. It's all about the relationship.
Correct.
Have the conversation, let them know what your needs are.
I'm just trying to find out from you is like the benefit of could I call in the merchant at that point?
I would tell you.
Not to bypass or mess up the printers, but to figure out a way that we could all make it happen.
I think in the best case scenario, it totally depends on the job we're talking about and what's going on. But I definitely think the merchant and the printer together should sit down with you and everybody. These are the parameters within which we need to work with. And usually the printer
Or
and the
here
merchant,
are other options.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Because
Because here are other options is probably one of my favorite sentences from vendors.
Well, you need to know what's
I understand what you
solution.
want, and we can make that happen. However, here are some other options you might want to consider.
Right. It's like, pick two, sacrifice one. It's the same kind of a thing. Like
I
maybe
don't like
it's
to sacrifice anything.
well, who does really?
Right.
But in reality, it's usually a deadline you have to meet, or
Correct.
a budget, or getting exactly what you want.
Right.
So, I'd love to say in a perfect world we get everything.
Right.
But the reality is.
I would have to agree with that. This is really cool. So obviously that's the web paper.
Yep, those are the web rolls.
What's in those giant boxes over there?
The
Just
giant
regular
boxes. Those are skids of paper. Those are
my
they're just
God.
like this. So they're skids.
So much paper. How here's a wacky question. How many sprinklers are in this place?
Oh God, I have
like,
no idea.
there must be like
Wrong question for
ridiculous
me.
like, oh my God, I don't even want to say the F word in here.
Oh no. Yes, no. There's it's a warehouse, and
I know.
so everything is kind of.
I know, it's just a crazy question. I'm sorry, my mind goes crazy when I'm in places like
No,
this.
it's okay. Well, it's cool. You want to learn. You want to see.
Yeah, this is
see it
really
all.
awesome. All right, awesome, cool. Next.